some further thought on that subject.
If the epilogue was a problem for Alexander Goehr, his music was a more immediate one for the orchestra. Since the first night, the score has been highly praised, but to say the orchestra found it difficult is putting it politely.
That's very true. You see, the chief problems actually in it are the rhythmical ones, because a lot of modern music, as you know, is written so that new groups come in different rhythms, suddenly interrupting a rhythm which has already been established. And composers like Penderecki and so on, they just simply indicate when a group of instruments come in and more or less leave the instruments to it. Now, this kind of thing is very good if you rehearse several times just before a concert and then do one concert or one recording. But when you're dealing with an opera which is going to go on being performed over years possibly, and with probably no rehearsal after the premiere, then you've got to find some way of writing it down so that it can be played and understood by a normal musician. It's terribly rhythmically complicated, this opera, but it has to be exactly notated and not left to chance the way so much modern music is. And although some of Sandy Goehr's music sounds possibly like chance music, it's not really so because it's all correctly written down. And this makes the most extraordinary difficulties with the rhythm, and the musicians have had a tremendous amount of difficulty with it. The singers have less difficulty with it because after they've learnt the exact rhythms, how they fit with the words, they then sort of sing so that it sounds free, but is in fact exactly what the composer wrote.
Yes. The vocal line is difficult. I think Sandy Goehr has made a difficult piece of music, but I find it extremely interesting, and I think the music is apt for the character. Yes, I do, but it's not easy at all.
It was very difficult for me to study this part, but now I enjoy it very much, because it's written for an alto, real alto.
The vocal lines for me are marvelous. They're very sensuous. I mean, this woman has to be basically, you know, driven by her passions.
Yes.
And this music comes up to this marvelously for me.
The murder scene itself offers a double parody, the setting of Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper and the music of a Nazi song. On paths of red the roses blow as the essay advance on Moscow.
With one thing you can console yourselves as you go off home. You yourselves are not guilty of murder, or indeed of any other crime, neither miscreants nor accessories, nor people who would rather not know. And even if you were, you are not like Alice in her own four walls, but far, far further off.
I think the end was really interesting because it is not the only man who made this or who is the murder. It is the community.
Well, to be honest, I must say that I belong to those who don't want to see everything.
I thought it was definitely aimed at German audiences. The fact that I'm not perfectly German and yet understood the humour of it, to a large extent I felt, makes me feel that as an English person unable to appreciate fully all the German nuances and so forth, that an English audience wouldn't find it at all difficult. Indeed, I would have thought very easy. It's a send-up, after all, of an old British raw tragedy.
Which has, in fact, very little dramatic significance at all. It really is just this series of attempts on the life of Arden, the last one of which succeeds. But Fried seems to me, particularly through the introduction of Mrs. Bradshaw, a character of his own invention, to have given it a very political angle. She is the representative, rather modern idea of the person who thinks that by saying, well, I was always against it, that they somehow exonerate themselves from the things they see going on around them. And then, of course, with the epilogue, a spoken thing, Fried has further pointed the political moral, very definitely.
At the beginning, I thought, right, this is about Germany, about complacency, about the past, the recent past. But now I've caught myself thinking that in fact that's the complacent. I'm as much involved in our present political situation, let's say in Vietnam, and I'm just as complacent as the people here, perhaps, about their recent past. So it's a very clever opera.